be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice, not just for some, but for all. And so coming from England, they sought to establish a society where there were not classes, the high class and the low class. And so my words are deliberate this morning that I will share with you. If you'd allow me to reach back and pull a scripture, a portion of scripture from Nehemiah 4. And the latter part of verse 2. Nehemiah 4. And the latter part of verse 2. In the middle of the verse, will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burned? I want to try and talk to you today from a thought rising above the rubble. All right. Rising above the rubble. What do you think when you hear God of our fathers, whose almighty hand leads forth in beauty all the starry band of shining worlds in splendor through the skies, our grateful songs before thy throne arise? What comes to your mind when you hear, oh say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. What do you think about when you hear the words, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom over me? And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to be with my Lord and be free. When we consider our past, when we consider in truth our history, when we consider in truth that we are shaped by the society and the environment that we have grown up in, then we must say that our consciousness cannot be silent, that our voices cannot rest, that we cannot look upon the founding fathers, that we cannot look upon grandmama and granddaddy and see what they did for us, that we would be able to sit anywhere we want to sit on the bus, and that we would be able to walk in any school of higher learning that we were qualified to walk into, that we cannot allow our voices to be silent and only speak those voices within the church. We have so lost our identity as a church, and we have pushed out our duties and responsibilities. We grew up knowing that the preacher was the voice of the community, that the community actually came to the church to hear what was going on, that the church set the moral compass for the nation. The nation did not set the moral compass for the church, but rather the church set the moral compass for the nation. We hear it debated now in courtrooms and in coffee shops. What is the definition of a family? Is the definition of a family a man and a woman, or is the definition of a family 2 men or 2 women? Well, the church used to be the voice that set the standard, that set the moral compass, that said this direction is north and this direction is south. It was the church who established right and wrong. It was the voice of the church that said that there is a difference between right and wrong. And yet we have become a society whose church has become incognito. And the church now has become a stealth bomber. Where we are no longer the B-52s of the sky. You can't hide the B-52 because of its size. You couldn't hide the B-52 because of the sound. You couldn't hide the B-52 because of its massiveness. It was designed to carry destruction. It was designed to be loud. It was designed to strike fear in our enemies. And now we've gone from the B-52 to the stealth bomber. We don't want nobody to know we coming. We want to sneak up on folk. And yet we declare, oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, purple mountains, majesties. We want to declare before the world, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. We sing out bold in the battle hymn of the republic, but we've decided that we're going to be a stealth nation.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God, help us.
We want to be religious without showing our religion. We want to serve a God without declaring who he is. Our God that we declared, who was God and God alone, has now become an ambiguous figure in our society today, because nobody wants to be identified with the God that watched over the people who came on the Mayflower. Nobody wants to be identified with those who survived that terrible winter and came back. Thanksgiving was not a time of thanking God for a turkey. Thanksgiving was not a time to thank God for pecan pies and mincemeat pies and apple pies. Thanksgiving was a time of giving thanks if it had not been for God.